Gericules here to talk about HGH. A lot of people have heard about HGH in the over 50 category. If you're over 50 years of age, you probably wonder whether in fact it helps. Well, I'll tell you, it definitely helps with the quality of life. It helps with skin tone. It helps with reducing belly fat, and it helps with healing tendon issues or injuries. And everyone I've known that's used HGH, real pharmaceutical HGH, that has happened. And I've known quite a few people who have used HGH. So if you're over 50, the answer is yes, it improves the quality of life. Now, studies in terms of does it improve the longevity of life, that's still for debate. But I do have to say a lot of these studies remind me of when steroids were studied in the medical tests in the 80s, and they would consistently say steroids didn't help. But the problem is that if you don't know what you're testing for, you're not necessarily going to find it. So with steroids, or I should say testosterone, if you do at least 300 milligrams a week, it has been shown to actually increase muscles even if you don't do any weightlifting, which I wouldn't recommend. But if you're going to take testosterone, you should definitely lift weights and do some strength training. And I've talked about that in other videos. But HGH is, in fact, in my opinion, and has been very useful. And so HGH can either be taken directly, and you inject it in your system. There's pharmaceutical, there's UGL, which is underground lab, and there's Chinese made, and even though I don't know whether it's UGL, but it's Chinese made HGH, which seems to be popular. Now, obviously, UGL and Chinese, could be some quality issues. Some of the Chinese stuff seems okay. But at the end of the day, you sort of want the pharmaceutical brand if you can get it. And that's part of the problem, is how do you get it? Well, either your doctor who prescribes TRT will give it to you, or they'll give you an injectable peptide. So let's talk about peptides. So there's two types of peptides out there that are easily available. One is through your doctor, and it's called ghrelin. And the doctor will, if you ask, he'll give you a prescription for it, and you inject it. And the problem, again, with injectable anything, even HGH, is you've got to put it in the refrigerator, and you've got to be careful. Easily breaks down. The other way to do it is through MK677, which is taken orally, easier to get. And it does seem to stimulate some HGH production. How much is up to debate. And all these things, whether you're taking the peptide orally or injectable, it will produce more HGH in your system, but it depends upon how much material base building blocks you have in your system to build it. And in fact, over a period of time, you don't have that much material, and it becomes less and less effective. So the first shot, or the first dosage of peptides, will be more beneficial. The longer you go, the less you will be able to get out of it. With that said, the other issue with stimulating HGH production is that your HGH only has pulses that are short-lived, maybe a minute or two. When you inject HGH, one, you know how much you're getting, and two, it stays in your system for hours. So you're definitely getting much bigger bang for your growth hormone when you inject it and it stays in your system. So are they comparable? It's difficult to say, but what I have seen is that if you take an injectable peptide, ghrelin, from your prescribed from your doctor, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I never know how to pronounce things. It might be equivalent to what we say is 1 IU, and IUs are sort of the measurement of HGH. So 2 IUs means twice as much HGH. Typically, in a vial, you might have 1 milliliter representing 1 to 2 IUs. It just depends upon how it's packaged and distributed. So basically, if you inject a peptide from your doctor. It'll be the equivalent of one, probably around 1 IU, somewhere around there. And after a while, it might be less. You might have more in the beginning, and you might have less later on. But it seems like it's sort of the equivalent of 1 IU. Now, why did I bring that up? Because if you want to experience the benefits of HGH, which is less belly fat, better skin quality, and more tone, healing of tendons when they're injured, and it's difficult to heal tendons because blood doesn't get there. So there are only a few really good methods, and certainly one is platelet-rich blood. But HGH is certainly has a good ability to help repair tendons. So basically, you need about 2 to 3 IUs to accomplish, in my experience, and based on what everyone else has done and what I've read, 2 to 3 IUs seem to be sort of optimal in terms of getting the basic quality of life characteristics. Again, skin quality, healing tendons, and reducing belly fat. And there's some other benefits in there, but those are the big ones that I've noticed consistently throughout. People argue other benefits exist, but I think it really depends upon the individual and how they react to it. But clearly, I've seen those 3 things happen just about everybody that's used it. So I'm pretty sure that's in fact what it does. And then in terms of if you want to build muscle and go beyond just the quality of improving, basic characteristics of your body, and you want to start building muscle, then actually you need to take about 4 to 5 IUs, and you need to take testosterone with it. Because if you're going to build muscle and use HGH to do that, it doesn't make sense to do it unless you're taking some sort of testosterone. It really just doesn't, because you're it's difficult to build muscle because HGH really doesn't build muscle by itself, and any muscle it does build seems to be related to tendons and doesn't increase strength. So to increase strength, you really need to take testosterone. And so if you're going to build muscle, you're going to take 5 IUs, you're going to take testosterone, whatever it is you are. And there does seem to be a synergistic effect between the two. Now, you never want to do more than 5 IUs when you're over 50. There's no reason to. And in fact, what will happen is you get edema. And I once got edema, and I couldn't, had a hard time with moving my hand. It wouldn't close all the way due to tendinitis. So if you have any tendinitis issues, this will really, over 5 IUs, will start make it much worse. So I definitely recommend, don't ever go over 5 IUs, but you might want to take you probably want to take 2 IUs to start with for quality of life, maybe up into 3 after a while, but I would stay there unless you want to increase muscle mass. Then you need to add testosterone and increase it to 5. And so that's sort of, in my view, HGH, and sort of all the benefits and pros and cons to using HGH. So I hope this has been helpful. Thank you.